and cold with highs in the upper 40s to near 50. A rain comes back for the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
For over 57 years, Nelson Royals has been serving the Lake Norman, Mooresville, Statesville, and surrounding counties. Nelson Royals has work in Western clothing and over 4,000 boots and shoes in stock. Brands like Ariat, Rocky, Justin, Durango, Tony Lama, Red Wing, Thorogood, Skechers, Hey Dude, and many more. Check them out at NelsonRoyals.com.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. 4 o'clock hour on Thursday. If you're a 9 to 5er, you got 53 minutes and 22 seconds until we hit that 5 o'clock bell, and I appreciate so much you spending that time with us here on Dollars and Cents as we give attention to, and perhaps we'll even spark a little conversation regarding items of financial and economic importance. Now, you know, as a previous listener, we're talking on any number of things here, investment strategies, particular companies and stocks. We're going to be doing that again a lot here today. We're on the back end of earnings season, so we still got a lot to talk about. Companies coming out, not only talking about where they've been, but where they'd like to go, but in doing so, you remember as a previous listener to Dollars and Cents that nothing that we're talking about here is intended as a specific recommendation for you, meaning that even though we're going to be talking about these companies, and again, like I said, some are going to think, well, that might be a good investment. Others, maybe that's not such a good investment. Nope, not true here. We're not making any recommendations. Everybody's situation is unique. We strongly recommend that you reach out to your tax advisor, to your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group, love to hear from you. Love to chat about your particular financial situation, see if there are ways in which we might be able to be helpful to you. Online, you can find us at northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, Main like the street, financial.com. We have a contact page on there. You can leave us an email address or a phone number. Let us know the most preferred and desirable ways for us to contact you, again, at northmainfinancial.com. You're also welcome to call us here in the studio. Like I say every week, I love when you call in and you have a question, or if there's a particular topic that you'd like for us to cover. Can't promise I'm going to get it squeezed in on the show. I always say that not to dampen the mood or to discourage you from calling in here, but I just want to make sure if you leave me a question, I don't get to it this week, I want you to know I'll get to it next week. Promise. I do that. I bring in different subject matters and bring up things that even come through the week, and I want to make sure that what we're talking about here is relevant and helpful to you. 844-STUDIO-4. That's 844-788-3464. 844-788-3464 here in the studio. Producer Reese will pick up the phone. Like I said, he'll get your question. I'll do my very best to get it in on today's show, and if I don't, I'll make sure I get it in next week. So feel free to do that at any time as well. All right, let's dive into it. Like I said, we're at the back end of earnings, the earnings quarter, if you will. And as I mentioned this several weeks ago, I'm going to mention it again because sometimes folks say, well, you're talking about quarterly earnings. Those happen. It seems like you talk about it a whole lot more than 4 times a year. Well, I do. And the reason for that is companies have different fiscal years. What that means is they report at different times based upon where their particular tax year falls. Not everybody, especially corporations, run on a calendar year tax year. So they may have a February to February kind of year or a June to June kind of year, which means they're reporting at different times. So it's not the traditional 4 quarters in terms of the calendar. That's why I say there are 6, maybe 8 different times during the year where you just have a whole collection of companies that are reporting earnings. This happens to be one of those right now. It has been for the last couple of weeks. I'm going to go ahead and get into it. I'm going to start with one of the big ones, certainly in terms of familiarity in the name. Actually, branding, boy, you got to put it up there top 3, 5, probably. Let's say top 5, probably, in terms of branding recognition worldwide. That's McDonald's. McDonald's, ticker symbol Mary Charlie Daniel. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the bonds. Came out with quarterly earnings, and they shared a sentiment. And the reason why I'm starting with them, A, because you've heard of them, I'm sure, but B, because they shared a sentiment that I'm hearing a lot more from a lot of different companies. Going to talk about it here a little bit in depth on Dollars and Cents because it's a big deal with regards to what's happening to us economically and then what kind of impact that has and may continue to have on different companies. So McDonald's came out, quarterly earnings, not all that great, down about 2%. So about 3%. Down about 2% in terms of the margins because of currency challenges. When I say currency challenges right now, and this is something, so I'm stepping away from McDonald's, going macroeconomic or going big picture on you here for just a couple of seconds, that the U.S. dollar, as it relates to other currencies in terms of its strength, meaning is the U.S. dollar stronger, is the euro stronger, is the Japanese yuan stronger, those kinds of relationships between currencies, which, by the way, is happening every moment of every day in a secondary market of trading. The U.S. dollar has appreciated relative to other currencies about 7% here in the last, I'm going to say 5 months, 6 months. Definitely the beginning part of fall of last year to about right now, about 7% appreciation in the U.S. dollar. And you may say, well, goodness, doesn't that mean good things? Don't we want to have a, quote, strong dollar? Well, it can be good, but there are a number of other factors to keep in mind when we're talking about a strong U.S. dollar. And specifically, you're going to see sometimes, especially companies like McDonald's, which have a significant amount of business outside of the U.S., that when the dollar increases in strength, earnings sometimes decrease, meaning those margins get squeezed because of the U.S. dollar, because of those sales which need to be denominated in different currencies, which mean even though it might be the same dollar equivalent being spent, when you have a depreciation in the currency strength where it is, then that means that you're going to lose money inherently. Now, I know that's a little bit wordy, but stay with me here. I'm going to get into this a little bit just so you understand a little bit about the relationship between different currencies. If the U.S. dollar is stronger, let's just use the euro. The euro is one of the most oft-used currencies outside of the U.S. dollar around the world. If the U.S. dollar is stronger relative to the euro, well, that means that the euro, of course, is less valuable relative to the U.S. dollar. Well, if you're doing business in euros and you're holding on to those euros and then that value depreciates relative to the U.S. dollar and you're trying to convert back into dollars, obviously, you're going to take a hit in terms of the actual real value that you receive. You walking with me there? Because that's important. That's important when we're looking at currencies. U.S. dollar strength goes up. In my example, the euro value dollar goes down. That means if you're holding euros, you can buy less or use it for less in value. And that's a big, big deal, especially when you're talking about these international corporations who are doing business in various currencies around the globe. So it's not that their U.S. dollar sales are bad. Actually, the domestic sales numbers for McDonald's looked pretty good. But when you're looking at it with a headwind of weak international currencies, which is where we are right now relative to the U.S. dollar, that's where we're seeing the pullback from a valuation standpoint, and that hit earnings for McDonald's. Not true for just McDonald's, by the way. Several of the biggest, brightest names that are out there had similar kinds of sentiments with regards to where the U.S. dollar, the strength of the U.S. dollar is, but specifically looking at the challenge that they're having with their international sales and revenues. Pepsi, Paul Edward Paul, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any of these, by the way. Microsoft, Mary Som Frank Thomas, one again of the most ubiquitous names out there, and another one, arguably brand-wise, right at the top of the list, Apple, Alpha Paul Larry. Again, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any of these, but all three of those companies, again, very, very well-known multinational corporations doing business in several different currencies around the globe, having challenges with regards to their earnings here in the U.S. because of the depreciation of international currencies compared to the U.S. dollar. So it's a big challenge. It's one of those nuances. Not a lot of folks talk about it. You may say, oh my gosh, I need to go take a nap now. That's not what I came here for on dollars and cents. And I appreciate that, but it is important. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on it. So when you're thinking about how these companies are reporting earnings, are things going all right? Are they not going all right? What do they anticipate coming up over the next quarter and the next year? We're going to talk more about that in the next quarter. Make sure you hang with us. We're going to take a moment to hear from our sponsors as we come back on Dollars and Cents here on WSIC.
There's more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on the way from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, our rain finally moving out. Sunshine peeking out this afternoon. What a sight for sore eyes. It'll get windy, though. Wind gusts around 20 to 25 miles an hour. Temperatures climb up to around 60 to finish off our Thursday. We'll get cold tonight. Temperatures drop back down to around freezing, and heading into our Friday for Valentine's Day. Sunny and cold with highs in the upper 40s to near 50. Our rain comes back for the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like iCats Public Transit.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Thursday, February 13th, Lake Norman Woman Magazine is hosting Ladies' Night at Bin 110 in Cornelius. The relaxing social evening begins at 6:30 p.m. Feel free to come make new friends, get to know your neighbors in the community, and possibly catch up with pals you have not seen in a while. Bin 110 hosts Ladies' Night this Thursday, brought to you by Lake Norman Woman Magazine. The Wine Maestro in Statesville has live music with Captain Dar on Friday. Captain Dar delivers entertainment with a capital E. With his acoustic music sets, it makes a perfect addition to your Valentine's Day plans. The Wine Maestro in Statesville presents live music on Friday night at 7 p.m. Mooresville Arts and Events welcomes you to join them for a date night like no other in the ballrooms of the Charles Mack Citizen Center on Friday and Saturday. Sigmund Theatrical's Murder Mystery Crew is back with Check-In for Murder. The action will unfold around you, with some guests even becoming characters inside of the story. It's a high-class evening of dinner, theater, and mystery. Visit statesvilleevents.com for tickets and information. Enjoy the Valentine's Day special at the Speedway Club at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Come celebrate with that someone special with a 3-course dinner or something off the regular menu. The Speedway Club Valentine's Special runs Thursday, February 13th through Saturday, February 15th. Then on Sunday, you can cheer on your favorite driver during the Great American Race at the Speedway Club Daytona 500 viewing party. Visit 704-455-3216 for Speedway Club reservations or visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Floors, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
Making your money make sense. Dollars and Cents with CFP Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second quarter of today's show, Football Reference. Producer Reese thought that he would bring to my attention, which I appreciate. That's part of the job of a good producer. But he thought it'd be good to bring to my attention that usually in the second quarter of each Dollars and Cents show, I will invariably talk about something that's football related, and I do that. I enjoy football. It's another word that begins with F, like finance and fun and food, which we talk about a lot. All of those things here on Dollars and Cents. But he said, it's football season's over. I said, Producer Reese, it is. But the countdown to training camp for football now begins. Aren't you thrilled? So now we're not just going to talk about football. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl here in a minute. You're not just going to talk about football. We're going to talk about how many weeks and months it is until training camp here on the second quarter of the show. But that was a pretty amazing game last week. Producer Reese and I were chatting about that as well. Pretty amazing in terms of I think it really surprised a lot of folks, probably everybody maybe outside of Phillies fan or Philadelphia Eagles fans, football, not baseball, and about how just dominant they were. Came out fast, got a big lead. Chiefs caught up a little bit towards the end there, but they were never really in it, and they looked almost stunned, I think, at just how amazing the Eagles' game plan was in neutralizing them. Pretty amazing stuff. I mean, stepping back, so let's tie it into something that's financial here. It was every single one of those commercials, starting with the Dunkin' Donuts commercial, which I think was the first one that ran after the kickoff. If I remember that correctly, Dunkin' Donuts was the first one. I think it was a 60-second one. By the way, DNKN, David Nancy, Kelly Nancy, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold. That's the one with Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. I think they had Bill Belichick. I mean, am I remembering that correctly? Yeah. I mean,
now, I have a question though.
Okay, well, producers, fire away.
The big priced commercials.
Yeah.
Do those start before the kickoff or after the kickoff?
I have the exact same question. There's probably someone really intelligent out there who knows the answer to that. Right. Like, when does that $5 million for 30 seconds rate start? I agree.
Well, the rumor going around is 30 seconds equals up to $8 million.
I mean, here I am at 5. That's probably from a couple of years ago. $8 million.
And it's gone up every year since then.
That's amazing. I mean, it truly is amazing when you're looking at it. And then I'm pretty sure the Dunkin' commercial was 60 seconds. I'm not completely certain about that. Somebody in Radio Land, feel free to call into the studio, 844-STUDIO-4. Straighten me out here if I'm getting this all wrong. But $5 to $8 million for a 30-second segment. I mean, is it twice that cost if you got one 60-second segment? You're talking 10 to 16 million.
16 million.
Unbelievable. In terms of the impact on it. And it wasn't just Dunkin' Donuts and Anheuser-Busch and Pepsi. I mean, obviously you're talking about huge tens of billions, $100 billion corporations. So obviously able to absorb that, if you will. Still very expensive, but able to absorb it. But there were some other names on there of entities and specifically some technology companies. I never heard of them before. And so I hope they're making a whole lot more money than I know about for that, because that is a tremendous expense and risk. And I guess if you're looking at it from an exposure standpoint, and certainly if the commercial that you're running happens to catch fire and go viral, right? Viral on social media, that's a very good thing. That's what a lot of folks want. A lot of companies want that to be able to do that. So maybe that was the case. Maybe I just I wasn't paying attention enough. But that's a risk. Yeah.
I was looking at a graph on Instagram. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl in 2002, a 30-second commercial cost $2 million.
Unreal. Yep. I know where you're going with this.
And it's gone up since then to $8 million.
That's unbelievable. 4 times the cost. And then, again, if you're talking about $2 to $8, that's one thing. $2 million to $8 million over the course of the last couple of decades. And again, it's still the same time frame. It's not like they expanded that by to instead of 30 seconds, you get 90 seconds. Right. No, yeah. I mean, it's still the same time frame. Yeah. Amazing. So the demand element is obviously there. And certainly in terms of the number of folks, tens of millions of folks literally around the world who are watching the game, that's true. But again, and I sort of watch the commercials, but also that's my time to get back to the kitchen. I mean, or back to the refrigerator. So I'm not the audience, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the commercials. I was a little bit underwhelmed.
See?
I think the word is.
See, how interesting is that? And I would be interested in what the feedback is. I'm sure there are folks out there who track that kind of thing, watch that kind of thing, and would say that because, again, if I've spent $5 to $8 million on a 30-second spot for the commercial, I would want some kind of dramatic impact of some kind. Or at least a whole lot of folks talking about me and hopefully going to my website, ordering whatever it is that I happen to be in the business of selling, but because, wow. So if it's underwhelming, I wonder if folks are doing that. That's kind of interesting. Anyhow, but yes, so the football season is officially over, and now it is officially into the season of counting down to football training camp. And in addition to that, of course, we'll be talking hockey, baseball, and basketball all along the way. Anyhow, thanks for hanging with us into the second quarter of today's show. Appreciate you very much. We had to talk a little bit anecdotally here because I know got a little wonky there towards the end of the first quarter of today's show, and I'm talking currency fluctuations and strong dollars and euros. I appreciate you hanging with us because that kind of stuff is important. And it's not that I want to get too granular or make you feel like, you're back in school or anything like that. But those kinds of things are important in understanding why things move in the ways that they move, especially when you're looking at your portfolio. If you're doing it yourself, you're working with an advisor, about the decisions that need to be made and the variables that need to be considered as you're doing it. I talk all the time about the decision algorithm when we're talking about how to invest and what's appropriate for folks, what we're looking at for clients or what you may be doing for yourselves. And it's so important. And the variables are literally changing by the second, constantly. And it's a function, all of it, all of the decision-making tree, all of that decision-making process is a function of how high on the priority list you are valuing the variables in that algorithm. I know, there it is. We got wonky on you again there. It's going to happen. It's the kind of stuff that we think about and the kinds of reasons that we make the decisions that we do. All right, let's talk companies again. Getting into this one, this was concerning to me. I never look at a single variable, single company and say, oh my goodness, things are great, or oh my goodness, things are terrible. I don't do that. You know that. We never want to extrapolate too far based upon a single variable. We need to stuff a lot of variables into the algorithm in order to be able to get a better understanding of the large group number. We don't want to make big decisions based upon small group numbers. But this one was notable because of how much of a marker they are about where not only consumer spending is, but also corporate spending is. And the company is Deere. And that is, yes, the John Deere green and yellow tractors kind of things. If you're talking about it on the consumer side of things, they also make very large scale equipment, earth mover kind of stuff, mining equipment, etc. So they're all up and down the spectrum in terms of size, usage, kinds of things. Ticker symbol David Edward, not a recommendation. Buy, sell, or hold the stock. They came out with earnings that, the quarterly earnings that were not particularly robust. I didn't get too concerned about that, but it was what they said about not only this quarter, but what they see for the balance of the year that kind of caught my ear as I was listening to the quarterly earnings call. And I was concerned about where they say that sales are going to be for the rest of the year. Now, most companies, for the obvious reasons, are generally speaking, even in this world of Regulation FD, which is Regulation Financial Disclosure, when companies are required to be very intentional about sharing what they see in the most truthful ways they can, not only at the quarterly earnings call, but in advance of it as well. I was a little bit concerned about, let's say, less than enthusiastic that the folks at Deere were sounding like in terms of sales for the balance of the year. And it stretched all across the spectrum. It was true with the consumer, and it was all the way through corporate and international sales as well. So we're talking about everything from push mowers and riding tractors on the consumer side to big earth mover equipment and construction equipment on the much larger scale side, literally, in terms of the machinery involved. That was disconcerting a little bit. And again, I don't want to extrapolate too much just based upon what John Deere has to say, because they are one of the suppliers in that mix. So it just may be that their orders are not particularly looking robust for the balance of the year, but they are a major player. And definitely a big variable in that algorithm that I was just talking about in terms of understanding where the consumer is, where companies are, even where contracts with the federal government may be, because they are also in the business of local, municipal, state, and federal contracts as well in terms of things like roads and interstates and that good kind of stuff. So definitely on my radar screen, not, again, extrapolating too much, but definitely the kind of thing that we're going to be watching. All right, another two companies, very, very well known. And we had talked about them probably 2-3 months ago. Actually, it's probably before Christmas. Let's say almost 3 months ago when it was first announced. And I'm talking about what was now, and you can obviously hear by the nomenclature there that something has changed. What was the announced merger between Honda and Nissan. I'm specifically looking at the automobile divisions for Honda and Nissan. Now, Honda is about 5 times the size of Nissan. So Nissan has had some trouble on the automotive division end of things here for the last several years. And Honda was coming in, first looking at a merger possibility, and then it looked more like they wanted to really just take over Nissan, make them a subsidiary of Honda. They got some pushback from Nissan's upper-level leadership, who thought it was going to be more of a merger, even though Honda was substantially larger than Nissan. Well, they called the whole thing off. Just decided that wasn't going to be, and specifically Honda did, that they said just wasn't going to be a good fit, not something that they wanted to continue to pursue. So that was pretty noteworthy. And that was somewhat surprising. Kind of thought Honda would still go forward with the deal, really just to be able to put their arms around Nissan from a competition standpoint. But now it looks like, and Nissan was relatively unabashed about saying this, or at least, let me say, unabashed about implying it rather overtly, that they're going to be looking for another suitor. And so I don't think that the possibility for merger or acquisition with regards to Nissan is finished yet, but it definitely looks like that Honda, at least in this most current iteration, is off the table. Not going to be interested in it. So that's very interesting. Folks who like Hondas or Nissans or those kinds of things, definitely worthy of knowledge there, but it's going to change now, and it could be interesting to see who picks up on Nissan. All right. We're rapidly getting to the end of the first half of today's show. We're going to take a couple minutes, hear from our sponsors, get a little bit of an update, but hang with us as we come back on WSIC.
More of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi is coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, our rain finally moving out. Sunshine peeking out this afternoon. What a sight for sore eyes. It'll get windy, though. Wind gusts around 20 to 25 miles an hour. Temperatures climb up to around 60 to finish off our Thursday. We'll get cold tonight. Temperatures drop back down to around freezing. And heading into our Friday for Valentine's Day. Sunny and cold with highs in the upper 40s to near 50. Our rain comes back for the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
Harrison's is the home of Work, Western, and Wow! We're the Southeast leader in Carhartt, and nobody has more in-stock work boots. The store is filled with Ariat, Cinch, Wrangler, and more. Get great clothing and footwear for the whole family at Harrison's. Find us on Norman Station Boulevard in Mooresville.
Lowry Drug is a source for excellent pharmacy services. We have served the Statesville community since 1959. We have attentive customer service, a state-of-the-art compounding laboratory, and the Dispill medication packaging system that takes the work out of medication management for those using medication planners. We do it for you. Come see us at Lowry Drug in Statesville. Call 704-873-2247. Come see us.
How about savings off a brand new car? Randy Marion Ford Lincoln in Statesville. We've got our service loaners with just a few thousand miles on them. Save thousands of dollars on all makes and models. That's F-150, Expedition, Explorers, Lincolns, Corsair, Navigator. I tell you, these cars are like brand new. Never been titled. You're the first owner. Save thousands. Randy Marion Ford Lincoln, I-77, right here in Statesville. You know where we are, folks. Right where the spinning car is. That's where the deals are. Randy Marion Ford Lincoln. Come see us today.
Nothing but the best talk.
The area's best talk.
WSIC.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. The share of outstanding U.S. consumer debt in delinquency rose to 3.6% in the fourth quarter. That's the highest it's been in almost 5 years. The New York Fed says total household debt rose 0.5% to a record $18 trillion, with credit card balances registering the fastest increase at 3.9%. The report suggests Americans are increasingly struggling financially as they face a third year of elevated interest rates. In another sign of housing woes, CoreLogic says almost 1 in 10 properties that were on the market in December were pulled from sale after failing to find a buyer. There were nearly 73,000 homes delisted that month. Deere & Company, the world leader in farm machinery, expects another challenging year ahead with grain and soy growers still not spending. Sales in key North American markets are expected to be down 30% for the year. Stocks today are up between 0.8 and 1/3%. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
Who is this? This is 105.9 100.7.
WSIC. Local starts here.
Now more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second half of today's show, Football Reference. You're a 9 to 5er, 26 minutes, 10 seconds until we get to that 5 o'clock bell. I appreciate so much hanging with us here. We're giving attention to all things economic, financial, whatever. We're kind of all over the place. Talked a lot of football in the second quarter. We do that a lot. We love football and sports and all those kinds of things. Had to talk about a little post game on the Super Bowl. Certainly, the number of dollars involved when it comes to advertising, television advertising, and other kinds of advertising as well. I mean, we talk a lot about the television advertising, a little bit more traditional on there. But if you look at online advertising, you look at other kind of merchandising sort of things that have to do with the football, certainly the Super Bowl. Yeah, but overall in the football experience, especially when you're talking NFL, gosh, billions with a B. It's amazing that there's so much money. And the brand is so strong here. By the way, I'd like to remind everybody, especially those who are Carolina Panthers fans, we are now on exactly the same level into this incoming season, exactly the same level with an equal possibility to win the Super Bowl next year. I'd just like to remind everybody of that. Everybody right now that we are post-Super Bowl for the incoming season, 0-0. Doesn't matter if you won the Super Bowl. Eagles don't get any free wins.
That's what I was going to say.
There are no free wins. It's not like they start out 4-0 or anything like that, or maybe they start up higher on the rankings. There's absolutely no benefit Everybody's 0-0.
Everyone's 0-0 right now.
I'm ready to go, Producer Reese. Let's go. I mean, it's easy for me to say these guys are all beat up from playing the entire season here, but I'll be ready to go. We'll be doing the countdown. We'll eventually get the calendar with the red X's on it, especially when we get down to the actual days before it happens. Appreciate you hanging with us here. Heading into the second half, let's talk a couple of things. We might even talk a little of food here. Now I'm going to bring out this one. This is a big one, literally. Producer Reese and I were talking about it during the break, and actually during the last couple of breaks, and it's a little outrageous. I gotta say it's a little outrageous. The restaurant, I say it's outrageous because of the size. That's really why I'm saying that. So looking at Wendy's, the very popular quick-serve restaurant, publicly traded company, ticker symbol Walter Edward Nancy, WEN, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Apparently there was a time a couple of years ago now, I'm going to say years, let's keep it at that. A couple of years ago now that you could make an order, or there was order hack. So maybe it wasn't explicitly on the menu, but there was a way to order what became known, or what was called, the T-Rex burger. I'm assuming that it was some reference to Tyrannosaurus Rex, but it was called the T-Rex burger. At any rate, and so you could do that, and it literally had, follow me here, it literally had 9 hamburger patties on it. Now, nine hamburger. Producer Reese and I agreed that there can't be anybody on the planet who could eat as a single person 9 hamburger patties stacked on top of one another. I mean, maybe there is. Maybe there's something weird or different out there. I can't believe it that it would happen.
Someone please email us a picture of what this looks like.
I mean, especially if you've had one. Or call into the studio, 844-STUDIO-4. Call into the studio if you have had a T-Rex burger from Wendy's, or if you are ordering one now, because apparently there is now another workaround hack. So you can't order the T-Rex burger, or apparently they will not make one for you. Don't know about every single location. However, somebody figured out a workaround hack that you can order a Dave's Triple. So I guess Dave's Triple is one of the options that you can order, and apparently is relatively customizable. Yeah, at least according to what I'm going to say next, because the recommendation was that you can customize it by adding, stay with me here, 6 additional patties.
That's very customizable.
So I'm thinking, okay, so Dave's Triple, the name implies three patties. I get that. That makes reasonable sense to me. So apparently you can't, I mean, why stop at 6? But I guess because the T-Rex used to have 9, so that's it. But can you order one with 35 patties on it? I don't know.
Just keep going.
I guess if the customization is wide open and there's literally no limit on that, then who's going to, who's going to make one that's, maybe you call it the Sears Tower? They don't even call it the Sears Tower anymore. Let's call it the Hancock Building out there in Chicago. Make one 35 patties tall, right? I mean, are you kidding me? 9 patties on there? Again, call into the studio, 844-STUDIO-4 if you've ever had T-Rex burger from Wendy's. Love it. Great stuff. All right. Now, it is, I do have to recognize that it is, as of the time of this live broadcast, or as of the time of this recording, you happen to listen to the podcast, that we are 1 day away from Valentine's Day. So this happens to be 13th February. So because I thought, well, all right, it's Valentine's Day. Definitely nobody wants to talk a whole lot on finances during Valentine's Day. At least I hope not. I hope you're doing something that's a whole lot more fun than that. But there were a collection of companies, specifically of restaurants, that I found that have specials for Valentine's Day to encourage, I think, eating with a friend, a wife, a spouse, someone with whom you'd like to share a meal. So kind of interesting stuff here. Shake Shack, a publicly traded company, ticker symbol Sam Henry Alpha Kelly, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or bonds, but they have a buy one, get one free. So it's called their Smoke Shack Burger. I better not say that too fast here on the radio. So Smoke Shack Burger, that if you order it through their app, you buy one, you get one free. I thought, well, shoot, that sounds pretty good. And apparently that's just a short-term kind of thing that's going to last here just during the time of Valentine's Day. There are a couple of other things, too. For example, KFC, which is also a publicly traded company, that they're also offering free delivery for orders that are placed online or through their app as well. Walmart, Walter Mary Tom, publicly traded company, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold their stock or bonds either. They are advertising what they're calling a love-themed holiday that you can buy from the grocery store end of things at Walmart, a steak dinner for two for less than $50. Now, I would imagine that most steak dinner possibilities when it comes to steak dinners for two for Valentine's Day, or anything even remotely close to Valentine's Day, can be really close, really hard to get to be less than $50. That would be hard. But Walmart's advertising, obviously, you got to take it home with you, and you get to eat at home in the comfort of your home. But it includes 2 cuts of New York strip, fresh asparagus, ready to eat, home-style mashed potatoes, New York and strawberry cheesecake, and a bottle of Josh Seller's Cabernet Sauvignon if you're a wine drinker. Pretty interesting stuff. There are a number of others as well that are out there. Subway, owned, privately held company, owned by the Rourke Group. We talked about them a number of times in terms of the sandwich-making entity, but they are, beginning on the 10th, and I think through the 17th, so it looks like maybe a full week, they're offering buy one, get one free subs as well when, again, you use it through the website or the app to order. So a little bit like Shake Shack, except that instead of burgers, you're talking about subs. I mean, how can you not like this kind of stuff? This is a California Pizza Kitchen, right? Sweet deal for two, 1 starter, 2 entrees. This is with regards to the restaurants, and 1 dessert, just $55 from February 10th to the 16th. I mean, there are all kinds of stuff. You look it up online. I mean, if it's online, it has to be true and real, right? So anyhow, if you're looking for deals and for options and for possibilities, I looked at this particular list. By the way, I need to make sure that I reference the source. Delish.com, DELISH.com has this list of opportunities for buy one, get one free, or other deals at different stores and restaurants here around the country. I am sure that this is not a comprehensive list, but kind of cool nevertheless when we're thinking about Valentine's Day. All right, so let's keep going here, talking about companies, talking about what's happening around us here. Got to talk another one earnings-wise that's out there. Big one, largest in terms of market share right now on a retail level for beer. Here in the world. And they passed Anheuser-Busch 2 years ago, I want to say 2023, where they passed them. Currently in the lead, the group's called Molson Coors. One of the most appropriate ticker symbols that's out there. Literally, the ticker symbol for Molson Coors is Terry Alpha Paul. Yep. TAP, very appropriate. If you're one who is a beer drinker, very good quarter. They were expected to pull back in their market share because they got a pretty big jump in market share here a couple of years ago as Bud Light did some things advertising-wise that really turned a lot of folks off from Bud Light, and so they shifted a lot in terms of market share to Molson Coors. So they got a big bump up a couple of years ago. There was some expectation that would begin to moderate. Again, that has happened, meaning that intensity of market share movement has not maintained in its entirety. So you got a little bit more that's moving back to Anheuser-Busch. By the way, ticker symbol literally is Bravo, Umbrella David, BUD, Bud. So just so you know on them, and then also with regards to not as much of a pullback in terms of market share depreciation for Molson Coors. Stock jumped, and the market really liked it. Stock jumped about 10% today. So there was, again, an expectation of a more modest quarter. They beat, and that was brought across as a good thing. I'd agree. Along those same lines of things, so just looking at economically overall where the consumer is right now, we just had our most recent CPI reading, Consumer Price Index, one of the most commonly used measures of inflation. Just came out here a couple of days ago, hit the 3% mark, pretty much as expected in terms of the number. That number, CPI, it's helpful, but it's one variable in the algorithm, folks. And folks say, well, that means that that inflation is under control. Well, yes, in certain areas, but it's not necessarily the only marker that's out there. And it's important to look at each individual area, especially when we're talking about things like rents and mortgages and food / grocery store prices or finished food presentation like restaurants, certainly with returns to commodities, oil and energy, specifically gasoline at our gas stations. You want to take a look at all of those as you're considering that. And those numbers tend to be a whole lot more varied, which is why we pay attention to them in the ways that we do. So I wanted to mark that 3% CPI, but also tell you to be cautious as you're doing your due diligence, understanding where we are. All right, well, we're warming up here for the fourth quarter of today's show. But before we do that, we're going to take another couple of moments to hear from our sponsors. Hang with us here on Dollars and Cents at WSIC.
We'll have more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi following these brief messages on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, our rain finally moving out. Sunshine peeking out this afternoon. What a sight for sore eyes. It'll get windy, though. Wind gusts around 20 to 25 miles an hour. Temperatures climb up to around 60 to finish off our Thursday. We'll get cold tonight. Temperatures drop back down to around freezing, and heading into our Friday for Valentine's Day. Sunny and cold with highs in the upper 40s to near 50. Our rain comes back for the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Thursday, February 13th, Lake Norman Woman Magazine is hosting Ladies' Night at Bin 110 in Cornelius. The relaxing social evening begins at 6:30 p.m. Feel free to come make new friends, get to know your neighbors in the community, and possibly catch up with pals you have not seen in a while. Bin 110 hosts Ladies' Night this Thursday, brought to you by Lake Norman Woman Magazine. The Wine Maestro in Statesville has live music with Captain Dar on Friday. Captain Dar delivers entertainment with a capital E with his acoustic music sets and makes a perfect addition to your Valentine's Day plans. The Wine Maestro in Statesville presents live music on Friday night at 7 p.m. Mooresville Arts and Events welcomes you to join them for a date night like no other in the ballrooms of the Charles Mack Citizen Center on Friday and Saturday. Sigmund Theatrical's Murder Mystery Crew is back with Check-In for Murder. The action will unfold around you, with some guests even becoming characters inside of the story. It's a high-class evening of dinner, theater, and mystery. Visit statesvilleevents.com for tickets and information. Enjoy the Valentine's Day special at the Speedway Club at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Come celebrate with that someone special with a 3-course dinner or something off the regular menu. The Speedway Club Valentine's Special runs Thursday, February 13th through Saturday, February 15th. Then on Sunday, you can cheer on your favorite driver during the Great American Race at the Speedway Club Daytona 500 viewing party. Visit 704-455-3216 for Speedway Club reservations or visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, the Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Flores, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
Call now to speak with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi at 844-STUDIO-4. It's Dollars and Cents on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much. Hang with us. You hang with us all the way to the end. I appreciate it. Fourth quarter of today's show in the sprint run, 11 minutes, 51 seconds until we hit that 5 o'clock bell. And I appreciate you sharing that time with us here. We've been talking all over the place. We've spent a lot of time talking. You know, I was at kind of opposite ends of the barbell today. That was intentional, right? I mean, we got into some wonky economic kind of stuff. We were talking about dollar strength and currency fluctuations. And I know that's kind of stuff that, you know, very understandably, even for me, sometimes makes my eyelids heavy. But then we balance that off on the other end of the spectrum, talking about the T-Rex burger at Wendy's with 9 patties. I mean, nine. I mean, where do we stop? You know, I thought once we got to doubles and even triples on that end of things, no, we got to go to 9 patties on that end. So producer Reese and I were talking, speaking of Wendy's, producer Reese and I were talking during the break there about something that he is way too grown up and mature to do, but I have definitely done it, coming from Wendy's, where you get the bag of French fries in one hand and the Frosty in the other, and I may join those two together before I enjoy that delicate treat. I mean, yeah, French fries and a Frosty together. Salty and sweet. That's what it is on that end of things. But anyhow, appreciate you hanging with us here. Final segment of today's show. Again, we've talked about a lot of different things, especially on a policy end of things, where things are currency-wise right now, and what that may look like going forward. If we keep with a strong U.S. dollar, meaning if the U.S. dollar continues this notable appreciation against other currencies, that's going to make it more challenging for companies that are doing business overseas and for international companies to do well, because they're going to have that currency headwind. Now, that's always true. That didn't just happen here in the last couple of months, and we're not outside of normal variance as far as those movements are concerned, but it's been enough of a movement here over the last several months that's a little bit, outside of the beta, of the expectation that it's worth a discussion, because now it's starting to impact quarterly earnings, especially again for these international players that are having trouble when they're working in currencies outside of the U.S. dollar. So you may see some shift, you may see some adjustment in terms of how some of these companies are doing business, where they're going to make their emphasis, where they're going to make their capital expenditures, and that may be something that again we see here shift over the next several quarters even. And so along those lines, especially when we're talking international, got to bring this up. It's definitely top of the headlines if you're watching not just business news, but pretty much any news that has a political tint to it, that got to talk tariffs again. And so we continue in this path that there are ongoing negotiations, and even literally before I just came on the air here, with announcements from the Oval Office about other tariff possibilities that are out there. And I say possibilities at this point because we're still at very much the front end of things here. And so I would caution, first of all, I know it's all very, very political right now. Regardless of your political affiliation, take a deep breath. Whether you think it's a superlative idea or an absolutely miserable idea, take a deep breath with it. And then with regards to your portfolio and your overall financial plan, after you've taken a deep breath and reduced the emotional aspect of things, either, again, in a very positive or a very negative kind of way, let's recognize what's happening here first. It would be inappropriate, just like it always is, to think in a straight line when it comes to changes that are happening economically. Nothing is forever, certainly when it comes to all things economical. As a matter of fact, all things economical and financial, almost across the board, are ridiculously cyclical. So it's not true that just because something is in place today that it will be in place forevermore in exactly the same way that it is today. It's just not true. You don't have to believe me. Take a look at history. That's never been the case. So when we're looking at the effect of tariffs, I think we are way out ahead of the curve in trying to anticipate what actually is going to be the net effect from that. Now, are companies pivoting a little bit and, let's say, insulating themselves against what some near-term possibilities may be, or what may be some higher expense experiences? Of course, that's what companies do. I mean, companies should be doing that. They should be protecting downside risk. They should be protecting against the unexpected. They should be hedging where it's appropriate. All of that is very true. And so you're starting to see companies do that. But to overall throw out a financial plan just because of what's happened here over the last couple of weeks, I think would be at the very best premature and probably more along the lines of ill-advised. Because we've seen already that some of these announcements with regards to tariffs have already shifted dramatically. I mean, I'm just going to bring up Mexico and Canada because it's the easiest near-term example. I mean, over the weekend, when that happened, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now, over the weekend it was announced that there would be pretty much across the board 25% tariffs against both of them. By Monday, at the end of the day, meaning the Monday after that weekend, we were on a 30-day pause with announced negotiations between those two countries. Folks, that's what I'm talking about. It's very, very important that as you're sifting through the news and the data and the announcements and all of this good kind of stuff, that you're doing so in a proper context. If you're just moving based upon what's blowing through the airwaves literally in a given day, folks, that's not planning, that's guessing. And that can be challenging. I'll even say dangerous when it comes to your overall financial plan, because you're trying to hit a bullseye that cannot be hit. It will constantly move on you. So you want to build into a plan. Here's the bottom line. This is the closing phrase on that particular idea. You always want to be in a financial plan that is financially flexible. You want to be in a space where you're not overly exposed in one way or another. Another way of saying that is you always want to be diversified, not only in terms of your investments and where your capital is, but also in your risk. Make sure that you're in things that not only may have some growth and maybe some risk possibilities, but that you're also in things that don't have as much risk, or at the very least are what we call non-correlated assets, meaning they don't all move in the same direction at the same time. That's very, very important when you're managing things. So you want to be in a space. I know you hear me say this all the time. I'm going to say it again. It's important, so that's why I'm just going to keep repeating it, that you want to be financially flexible. Now, you may be listening and saying, I need a whole lot more money in order to be in that kind of place. Nope. Yeah, I don't think you've heard me say one time here at any point on any show that, well, if you're at this level financially, then you do this. And if you're at another level financially, you don't do this. No, I'm talking about with the next $10 in your pocket that you can be financially flexible, because it has to do with making sure that you are spending below means and also accounting for the things financially that you don't expect. That starts with emergency funds. That starts with cash savings. That starts with money just set aside for which you have no need at a particular moment and no plan to spend it, and then staying to that discipline. And I'm talking about that whether we're talking with $10 or $10 million. It doesn't matter. The concept is the same. And that's very, very important to keep in mind, because, again, there's sometimes, and I get it, my industry is ridiculously guilty of this. We are. That you say, well, if you're at a certain dollar amount, then this applies. And then if you're at another dollar amount, well, then you can work with me as an advisor. It's your business. That's the way the industry sometimes moves. And certainly there are advisors and firms that are out there and manage their practice in that way. Folks, what I'm talking about here is applicable to literally everybody. It is not a function of a net worth statement. It's about living below means. It's about making sure that you have some set aside for the things that you don't expect, and then some set aside for future need, whether that's retirement or other kinds or other spaces in your life that are yet upcoming. Perhaps you're saving for college expenses, for children or for grandchildren, or for some larger expense that's down the road. That's how it works. So when we're talking about things like tariffs, and we're talking about things, what's happening macroeconomically, or if we're talking about everything from currency headwinds that are affecting companies like Apple to, 9 burger patties on a T-Rex burger at Wendy's. It's all a function. All of it, I know, as funny and as chuckling as it may be to say it out loud, that it's all a function of managing well what each of us have. And that really is what financial planning is. Managing well what each of us have. Not a function of a net worth statement, not a function of, well, whenever we get a lot more money, then we're going to do that. No. It literally starts with the next $10 in your pocket. And you can start at any time. That's also very, very important as well. And as I'm saying that, I'm not doing so into oblivion or just as an academic exercise. I understand, especially when you're younger and you got young families and you got student loans and you got house expenses and you're just getting started and you feel like the expense universe is snowing you over constantly. Folks, I get it. I absolutely understand that personally. But it's important insofar as you can to make sure that your expenses or your expense experience is in keeping with what your income is. And I know that can be very, very, very hard, especially in this consumer age where we are just built to spend more and we are encouraged nonstop to spend more. I get it. It is hard. But I would continue to encourage you, at least this one voice is going to continue to encourage you, no matter where you are in the financial spectrum, no matter where you are in your financial lives, to make sure that you stay, going to say it again, financially flexible. Because all of us live into spaces of stress, all of us live into spaces of challenge. You can literally, by your good decision making, at least reduce the financial stressor when things happen that you don't anticipate. And folks, I hate to prick the bubble. If you're not in that space right now, I promise you will be at some point in the not too distant future. It's a function of life. Remember, I talk about peaks and valleys all the time, right? Places that we enjoy at the peaks, places we don't enjoy at the valleys, and a whole lot of space in between where we spend time, meaning we're somewhere in between those two experiences. But you want to make sure, no matter where you are in that space, especially if you're in a space right now where things that maybe are pretty good, make sure you're prepared for when things aren't all that great or for things that you don't anticipate. Make sure that you have that financial flexibility, that emergency fund, that cash set aside, capital that's not market sensitive, whatever it may be, so that not if, but when things pivot in a way, either that you don't want and or don't anticipate, that you're in a space to weather through that. Because then that reduces that financial stressor in your life. And I think for all of us, that's not such a bad place to be if we can reduce those kinds of instances. I know it's not particularly riveting or exciting, certainly isn't the kind of cocktail conversation that perhaps is going to be high on your list. But I promise you, if you do it when you don't have to do it, you're going to be very thankful that you did when you need it. All right. Well, we're rapidly getting to the end here. I appreciate your indulgence. Appreciate you sharing the time with us here on Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. We're going to come back next week at 4 o'clock and talk more about what's happening around us economically and financially, answering your questions here on Dollars and Cents at WSIC.
Serving you better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville, W260